So this was not what I was going to share here today, but every Sunday or Monday, I also listen to an astrological report podcast. This has been a ritual of mine for many years. Right now, I'm loving Chani Nicholas's app, the Chani app. And I was listening to it this morning, and it's interesting. There's a lot of planets, not our sun yet, not the moon, but there's a lot of other planets that are in Virgo and moving into Virgo this week. Now, some of you might know this, but Virgo is detail oriented. It's an earth sign. It likes to get things done. It likes to make lists. It likes to have practical approach to things. And so I thought this was a really cool way that the astrology came in, or the astrology was supporting what's going on and what I've had planned for, or what I felt called to offer in my business. The stars are supporting us in doing this work as well. So let's take a moment to come into this space together. Before we officially get into anything, it's my intention for this call to be 30 minutes max. Like I don't want to waste anyone's time. And so, yeah, just that's my intention for this call. And then the Thursday calls will be longer and just an opportunity for us to work together and be held accountable. So let's take a moment to come into this space. If you're able to, if you want to close your eyes for a moment. Taking a full breath in and a full breath out. Another few breaths like that, inhaling and exhaling. I know some of us have offices, but I don't. Right now, I'm sitting at a dining room table. And so using this moment to separate yourself from anything else that was going on, letting it fade to the background and allowing yourself to be fully present here with your work at hand. Whether that's learning or focusing or planning, asking that your higher self, your intuition, speak to you and tell you which parts of this conversation are for you. Similarly, I ask to set aside any of my own distractions and to come into this space from a place of my higher self to bring forward the insights, the downloads, and the questions that are for the highest and best good of everyone here and everyone tuning into this replay. And from this space, we can co-create in a more intuitive, more aligned, and more connected way. Another full breath in and a full breath out. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Again, so nice to see all y'all here, see your faces. I was off last week and it was nice to be actually like fully off. I wrote about this in my newsletter, but I didn't remember the last time I took like a full vacation, including a vacation from, I've taken time off before, of course, plenty of time, but like no social media. For many people, social media is that place that it's like maybe it feels like work, maybe it feels like fun, but it's like this liminal space where we can get lost in time, we can lose our boundaries, can also be a great place to connect. But it was good to be off for that time. So in today's call, I'm going to walk through the process that I do. Well, let me just zoom back for a moment. I wanted to host these calls. I was inspired by a coaching session. I wrote this in this week's newsletter or whatever, a few days ago. I often find myself giving advice that I need myself. And so my intention with these twice weekly calls, the Monday week setup, the Thursday co-working, is to provide all of us with a space to gently reignite any fires that perhaps have felt like they've gone out, or to fan the flame of creativity, inspiration, and momentum within your business. And again, I'm doing this for me as well. I need this too. So on today's call, I'm going to walk you through what I do at the beginning of every week. It's a spin off of Monday Hour One. Has anyone heard of Monday Hour One? I see some shake heads. Shout out to, I don't know if she'll ever see this, but shout out to my friend Lauren from college who introduced me to Monday Hour One years ago. We were on like a girls' beach vacation, and she was saying how she like scheduled in her painting her nails, like polishing her nails. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. She's like, oh, I'm doing this thing called Monday Hour One. I schedule in everything. I'm getting so much done. I'm not going to ask you to do that. My spin, I think, is a much more intuitive way. But if you're curious, I'll also send out a resource where you can look at the Monday Hour One process. I want to give that credit where credit is due. But this has been super helpful for me in setting up my week. And this was also really helpful for me last year when I started taking on a lot more responsibility, caretaking and managing the care for my grandmother. Oftentimes we do not acknowledge, we might acknowledge the work that we do within our careers and our jobs and the to-do list items, but we don't acknowledge the things that we do for our families, for our friends, in our personal life. And I believe those things need to be acknowledged. It made me feel a lot better when I started seeing, oh, you're not having this much time for your like computer work because you're doing all of these other things, and they're just as important. They're part of your purpose on this planet now. So let's get right into it. Basically, the process for Monday Hour One is one of the first hours of your week. I know we're doing this at noon Eastern on Monday, which some people might already have a whole half day or a whole 2 days into your work week. But ideally, it's one of the first hours of your work week. You sit down and you write everything that you need to do for the week. So I do this in a Google Doc because I find it's easiest to do it there. You can definitely do it in a notebook if you're more of like a notebook person, but dump everything that you have to do that week or that you want to do that week into this list. And include personal items. I don't include if I have to wash my hair, which I don't do every day, I do it like once a week, I will put that on the list. I would say you might not need to put on the list like shower, go to the bathroom, eat lunch. But if you need to like meal prep or make food, or you do need to book a nail appointment or a wax or something, or call the internet company or go visit your grandmother, those are all things that I want you to put on this list. Like I said, I put it in a Google Doc and I just start writing things down. I use my Google Calendar pretty heavily. That's where all of my client appointments, all of my group coaching calls are. I put personal appointments in there as well. So I'll reference that. And then I'll also pull in what are the weekly tasks that I need to do. And you could totally create a separate list for this of like weekly recurring tasks. Maybe you always write a weekly newsletter, or you always do an Instagram live. You can put those on the list. But it ideally is a brain dump of all the things that you need to do, both work and personal. And how I also organize my list in areas. So I run a group coaching program called Your Stellar Center. I'll put everything in Your Stellar Center, one right after another. I have client coaching calls many weeks. I'll put those in like a section together. That helps my brain organize, but you can do this any way that suits you. Maybe you want to do it in those like project or areas like admin, financial, home life, or you don't have to do that if that doesn't work for you. If you want to organize it chronologically, you can totally do that. So step one, brain dump everything that you have to do, you want to do, you need to do, you get to do into a document. Any questions on there so far? Pretty straightforward. And I can show you, I'll share my screen at the end and I'll show you what mine looks like. It's very casual. Now, this is where my process diverges from the official Monday Hour One. I'll tell you what the official Monday Hour One prescribes that you do. They want you to, like my friend Lauren, and booking, like scheduling in her polishing her nails. They say to schedule everything into your calendar. Now, as a triple water sign, having a fully booked calendar, especially in like the height of my favorite season, which is summer, makes me super anxious. So I don't book everything in. Some people do, and you could try that and see if it works for you. I know there was a time that I more of that and it was supportive for me. So tune in to what you know will help you. Do you like to have all your time scheduled? Do you know the things that I will schedule are things I know I will avoid, which used to be, and I have this a standing appointment on my calendar every month, the first week of the month, which I have to do it this week since I missed it last week on vacation, to do my financial, like my books for the month. Now that's something I'll put in. Or if there's something that is time sensitive, I might mark it off on my calendar. Something I know I might resist or avoid or is more challenging for me or is a bigger chunk of time. For instance, if you're working on a website or you're working on a program launch, or you're working on creating a workshop and you want to have a solid chunk of time, you might want to schedule that into your calendar. But I don't do everything. So try it. What I will schedule again are the things that I don't want to do, the things that I'll avoid, or anything, you know, if I need to book a call with someone, if there's someone else involved, I will schedule it. The other time I will schedule something is if I know that my week is pretty full. Like I have only a certain amount of days around my computer, or I already have a lot of things going on, I will make sure that the most important tasks do get some time on the calendar. So is that making sense so far? Are people seeing how they can apply this in a really simple way? I'm curious to hear. So that's like my process. And then as there's a second part of the process is each day when I sit down at my computer, I will highlight on my list the tasks that are for that day. And I'm to a place right now where my business is pretty steady. So I don't have to manage everything, like micromanage everything, make sure I have time for everything. I have gotten into some rhythms, like I usually write on Wednesdays for my email to go out on Fridays or so. But if you're at the beginning of your business, if your business is something that maybe is just a little bit on the side right now, or if you have a lot going on, you have a lot of different appointments, a lot of time that's already booked, you might want to just make sure that you're leaving the appropriate amount of time for the things that you need to get done. But what I do is each day I'll put it in a different color. These are my tasks for the day. And at the end of the week, you can see how you did. Hopefully you'll have everything crossed off. Maybe there's something that gets finished on the weekend. If you're consistently bumping up against like the Friday rush where you haven't achieved certain things or moved through certain projects or given the time that you want to give, this is also an important part of this process is the reflection. I do not shame myself for bumping something on to next week's list, but if something consistently gets bumped, or is not getting done, that's something that I look into. Is this a project that I really want and need to work on? Is this something that I could delegate? Is this something that do I have to do this? Oftentimes we have these like made up requirements in our head of like, oh, I need to do this many workouts or I need to send this many newsletters. And so if something keeps getting bumped or not getting its full time, it's worth looking at it because it doesn't feel good to have like that to-do list not get checked off week after week after week. again, I don't, especially if you're just starting a process like this, or if your business is a little bit more in flux, not predictable, you may have some weeks where you have a lot of time, some weeks where you have less time. Give yourself some space to stabilize and find your flow. You may find that on certain days you have more space for creative inspiration, and those are great days for writing. So you work your schedule around it. You might find that certain days or certain times of days are better for you to meet with clients. You might find, and this is something that we have a workshop within your Stellar Center. I think it's also included in the mastermind materials on moon cycles. You might find that there's certain times of the moon menstrual cycle, if you're someone who is menstruating, that you are more productive in the traditional sense, more creative in that sense. So this is a structure to start with to help you manage. It's not really time management, but task management, again, in a simple way. Now, where this might not work is, again, if you're someone who's already, well, I won't even say that. I was going to say, if you're someone who's very fully booked, you might just want to lean more into booking, or lean more into putting the items on, like I'm trying to think of, like, okay, if you have like a full-time job and you're working on your business on the side, perhaps you use this for your full-time job. Perhaps you don't. You use it for your business projects, your passion project work, and your personal work. And maybe you do need to, like I said, schedule more time in. This might, when I say this might not work, I don't know. I think it works. I think it's great. And it's not super, again, I don't love the super hyper structure, but if that's something that you know works for you, then totally lean into that. So that's my process. Does anyone have any questions or anything that stood out that they want clarification on, or want to add? Is there something that you do in your like time management, task management, that has been really helpful?
I really love this, Emily. One of the things that I've also tried to do, and when I can do it, it works really well, is on Fridays, start that list so that on Mondays, I'm not starting from scratch. Or I'll do that before I go on vacation, is write down kind of all the things that I need to do when I get back. So I'm just, as you're sharing, kind of figuring out, like, what could that wrap up at the end of the week look like, that routine around the wrap up, and then that routine on a Monday. I think those could be, for me, really a really nice complement to one another.
I love that, Katie. Thank you for sharing. I think that's also, again, if you're someone who is going, if you're going to be fully off for the weekend, or you're going on a vacation, or you're someone who's always thinking about the work projects or the things you have to do, it might be helpful to start that list. Honestly, a lot of times I will do this on Sunday, and it's like a soft landing into my week. And it's nice because I don't wake up Monday morning being like, all the things I have to do. So I love that. And like, you can, like you said, you can kind of connect the Friday wrap up, which this is where you could bring in, if there's some other ritual. I know other entrepreneurs who have like Friday checklists, like, okay, did I do these certain things? This is where, again, you can bring in lean on the Virgo energy, bring in certain lists of things you want to do every month, or you want to do every week, or maybe there's metrics you want to check in on. You can incorporate that into your either like Monday hour one process, and or your Friday or whatever day reflection process. Thank you, Katie. Anyone else have something they want to add or share? Okay, you all want to do it? I haven't done mine this week because it was a friend's 40th birthday party last night. So it was like a long weekend. And I could have done it earlier today, but I was like, I'm going to do it on the call. So like I said, I do mine in Google Docs. And I'll just share, let me pull it up real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. It's nothing fancy. And actually, this is funny. I think I kind of did this, Katie. I put in some notes here for what I wanted to do on vacation, which I did. So let me just share my screen real quick. Miscellaneous vacation week. Cool. So here's like literally what I do. I'm not going to scroll all the way through this because there's some names in there, but you see it's just a list on a document. So let us begin. Feel free to pop in if anything's unclear, if you're having trouble. Like I said, I reference, and sometimes I'll do this, I'll do the initial brain dump, and then I will, something else will come up and I'll add it in, or there's something, especially if I look at the week ahead and I'm like, I actually have more space in my calendar that I'd like to devote to a creative project or a work project. This is the time where you can say, okay, what would I want to do here? And you can put on your list, give yourself credit. That's like a big takeaway from this. Give yourself credit. If you want to watch, like if you have a training program that you're a part of, or even if there's YouTube videos you want to watch for inspiration, like put that on your list. That's part of the process, not just the end result of the newsletter or the coaching program or the Instagram post. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Week of I do remember the thing that I said, this doesn't really translate. You can certainly use it, but I don't think that this process really translates to like team task management. So if you're working with a team or you're delegating to someone, you might want to consider having another system like a Slack or an Asana or Trello. And if all of these things are like, I don't know what that is, just Google it. They're like task management systems, some other system for working on tasks with teams. This is like for an individual. And even as I'm doing this, like, okay, we have a coaching call tomorrow night for your Stellar Center. I know for every coaching call, there's 3 things that need to happen. Well, technically there's 4. There's a reminder that goes out. I do prep for the call. I do the actual call, and then I send the replay. All 4 of those things go as tasks on my Monday hour 1. And if you're anything like me and you like crossing things off, it's great to like cross these off your list, or you can move them to a done section. I think because I'm running Zoom, my like Google Docs is working really slow. So I'm like typing and it's like kind of feels like my brain right now. All right, friends, I'm done. You're welcome to take more time. How did that go? Does anybody, I don't know, have something they want to share, something they're going to take away from this? Is anybody going to schedule everything in and try that?
I think it went really well. I really liked the categories option. And now I feel like set up to return to this template from here on, and like just having it done at the end so that like the list will get smaller and just move those things. I thought that was a good suggestion. So
it feels, like I said, it feels good. It's like, I always remember when I was in college, I would sit down and be like, these are my homework assignments that I need to do. And it feels so good to like cross them all off.
mhm.
Which we know our worth is not determined by our productivity, but it does feel good to say you are going to do things. And especially when it's with something you're passionate about or something that you know you need to do for your growth and evolution and to get it done. Right?
Mhm.
Cool. I'm going to pull a card for the week. I'm going to share with you all a really interesting, if anyone has to hop off, please feel free to hop off. I pulled a card this morning. I want to share that one with you because it was a really wild situation. And then we'll pull one for us. So the card, it's actually, I think it got mixed in here because we pulled some other ones. But yesterday in my meditation, I heard, and like meditation also a way that I can, is like when I'm meditating, I'm connecting to my higher self. I'm connecting to spirit. I'm asking questions of my higher self. I'm listening for downloads or advice. And something interesting that popped up was you're going to receive an offer, which was like such a weird like phrase, such a weird thing to like hear in meditation. I was like, okay, cool. And then I pulled the offering card from the archetypes deck this morning, and my jaw like dropped to the floor because the offering card does have a slightly different meaning than to receive an offer. But it's again interesting that these ideas of being of service, of receiving, or like receiving a service are coming up now as more of this Virgo energy is coming in. So let me just find this card because I do want to read it. It's a beautiful one. Sometimes too, I don't often pull a card for the week. Some people do that like the week ahead. The day ahead. I sometimes do days. I more pull cards on specific scenarios or with the moon cycle. But you could totally like make this magic. Use some, you saw me lighting Palo Santo at the beginning of this. You could bring in your crystals, your tarot cards. If you have a specific meditation process, like this is where you get to bring in the more feminine, more intuitive side. You can read all the business books that teach you about productivity, but you get to bring in the magic of your own and make this like, make your tasks feel more divinely inspired or divinely like led. Okay, so where is the offer? The offering. 193. And then also this morning when I like picked up the book, I flipped right to the page. So the offering, the gift, the present, the sacrifice. Unlike many of the other cards in the deck, the offering carries a clear as day message and a call to action. As you may have guessed, it is time for something to be given and given up for the sake of the bigger picture. If nothing comes to mind immediately, though it's likely it will, take time in meditation to consider what must be offered and who is to receive it. That's interesting. Who is to receive it? It's likely you'll feel attachment and hesitancy. You'll make excuses, but recognize the link between the word sacrifice and the word sacred. One leads to the other. When we offer up something to the greater good, we lighten our load and become more able to serve. Imagine for a moment if you are able to offer your whole self unconditionally to the world. For now, start small. So when light, generosity, donation, volunteering, when dark, giving with expectations, keeping track. So definitely something I will be sitting with, and also feels appropriate as I'm offering these sessions. Hi, Erin. Does anybody have a question or something that they would like guidance on from the cards, like on behalf of our collective group? We can just do a general pull too. The shaman. That's a cool one. The shaman, the sorcerer, the medicine woman. 3 archetypal ingredients constitute the shaman, and all must be present in order to reveal its magic. First, the shaman is activated by long-standing and diligent study, the mentor. Second, its orientation is generously, interesting that that word comes up again, and accurately aimed towards the healing of the self, the other, and the culture, the healer. And third, the shaman has a knack for finding doorways into the other world, allowing psychic visions and old magic to leak into this world, the unseen. In this way, the shaman is a master who bridges the everyday and the sacred, revealing potent power needed desperately in our time. Yet where there is power, there is shadow, so the shaman must be vigilant in studying their darkness. This card reminds us that the force of healing is ultimately not our own. We must shape it and share it with the world. Now, I know many folks on this call or listening to this replay are some sort of healer, whether you identify as a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a parent. And I think that this does just reconnect to what I was saying about make this process magic. The whole point is not just crossing the things off your to-do list. This Monday hour one, yes, gives you that like detail-oriented list that Virgo archetype loves, and probably any other earth sign loves. But really the archetype of Virgo is a healer. And so this Monday hour one is not really, but another like side of a higher picture side of Virgo is a healer. And this Monday hour one can give you that opportunity each week to check in and say, what are my tasks, but also what do I want to do? What is highest and best for me? And how can I be the conduit? How can I be the channel, the channeler to bring this into the world? I think that that's something that I coach around a lot, is that you are the channel, you're the conduit. You don't have to do this all yourself. You can ask for support, whether that's from other people or from a higher power or from your higher self. But the force of healing is ultimately not your own. And I would also say the burden or the responsibility of healing is not your own. It's just ours to channel and share with the world. So with that, we will close this call. Thank you all for showing up. My Virginia is coming out. Thank you all for showing up here. We're going to do this every week. Probably the next few weeks, the next 3 weeks will be shorter because we'll just get right into it. So it'll be a shorter call. And then Thursdays we have our co-working. You're welcome to sign up or join all of them, as many as you can. You can register. Everyone here must have had the registration link. But the Monday Zoom link will be the same and the Thursday Zoom link will be the same. So you can just reference that. And feel free to reach out if there's anything that comes up as you're putting this into practice. We can also kind of troubleshoot next week as you work with it and share how this process supported you or how you can make it more your own. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your week. I will see many of you on the internet somewhere and hope to see you guys for the next call.